Hello, everybody. It's Connection Point Conversation Wednesday yet again, and I'm really excited to be here today. We've had an interesting process since the last conversation where we started with, where we talked about busyness, and Thomas and I, we debriefed after we got off the call. Hi, Thomas. I'm looking forward to talking with you today. So after busyness, we got lots of feedback about it, and it was really great. And then I'm going live here with Tom. Get on there. Anyway, so I got some interesting feedback, and hi, Thomas.
Hi, Mheyah.
Welcome. Welcome Wednesday.
Thank you.
So what was really great was I got some interesting feedback, and then my brain started thinking still on busyness. There was so much stuff we hadn't talked about. And then Thomas and I debriefed afterwards. And what was really funny about it was I said, okay, well, I'll do this and I'll do that. And I admit I'm a busy person. And what I get out of that, sometimes I have no idea. But we're going to discuss that, I think, at some point. Anyway, Thomas said, you can ask me for help. And I went, oh yeah, novel thought. And that's how I went, good subject, let's talk about it next time. So that's how that came about, was why, it's not sometimes even in our consciousness that we can ask for help. And then I sort of started thinking, well, what stops us from asking for help? How do we come to that point in our humanity that we're not reaching out to our tribe? We're not acting in that way, that so much in our society, we're just isolated and we don't ask for help. Now, I've got a really good excuse for that, or a reason. Let's call it a reason, not an excuse. It's a reason, because in my family, and I'm sure that lots of other people can identify with this. However, in my family, what happened was I learned really early on I couldn't ask for help. It wasn't safe to ask for help because nobody was going to meet my needs. And not only that, I was criticized or judged for asking for help. So I learned as a little tiny little girl not to ask for help. And I think in a lot of ways that creates anxiety for some people. I know it did for myself. I know that it can also lead to that intense busyness. If you can't ask for help, then you can you can also use your busyness kind of, I don't want to say against other people, but you can be a victim. You can be a martyr if you're not asking for help. So I'm wondering a lot of the time, when you're not asking for help, we end up in this really bad place where we're feeling aggrieved that we're overwhelmed, we're overdone, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's taken a lot of years for my boys to train me to ask for help. And my sons, they remind me all the time, Mom, you're not feeling well, or this is going on, you're in treatment, you can ask us for help. That's been the hardest part for me, is learning to ask for help, because I need to be independent so that I don't go to that place where I'm feeling a burden, which is what happened as a child. So I want to know what your experience is and how we can help these lovely people that we have on the call. Now, as always, I really hope that if you've got something you want to ask, I know there's a few of you on the call I can see already that ask really good questions. So if we're talking away and something comes up, please just write it in there and we'll see it, and then we can answer your question. So hello again, Thomas. And
Hi,
it's
Mheyah.
so nice to see you. How are you feeling after moving?
Thank you. Settled, blessed to be in this gorgeous little home, and ready to take the next step.
And did you ask for help when you needed it?
My gosh, we did. We were we were supported by a very dear friend. And of course, he ended up being kind of the backbone because he just likes to move. So that was an easy request. So yes, we did ask for help. Exactly.
It's because who likes to move?
Who likes to? Yeah, that's very true. Who likes to move?
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm really appreciating that you were able to land on kind of the genesis for you, or that spot in your life where you recognize from the family upbringing, that family of origin, that teaching, if you will, from mom and dad, that thou shalt not ask for help. When we took this on, me, and I didn't share this with you, I really found myself in initially quite a bit of anxiety, and then I dropped into some sadness in recognizing how it is I wasn't able to ask for help, particularly as a younger person. And the depth to it is kind of two floors to this. And I've come through it, and I'm really glad that I did that work. But ultimately, first of all, not unlike you, my family of origin, and the lesson for me, what I was taught around not asking for help, was predicated on the Dolans holding a secret. And the secret was from anybody outside of our tribe, as you described. And the secret was there was an alcoholic in the household. Mm-hmm. And that dysfunction was really held tight and close. That secret, if you will, was held tight and close. And I remember not knowing why we didn't ask for help, because, gosh, we needed that help, right? We were a social welfare family. We really struggled. Mom did the best she could with 10 children. Dad was challenged with health. On top of that, the alcoholism. But it was, if we ask for help, there's the possibility that folks are going to discover the secret that the Dolans are trying to hide.
That's a biggie.
That's a biggie.
That's a biggie.
That's a biggie. So as I move forward in life with my own secret, right? And the secret was that I was gay and I didn't want the world to know. Mm-hmm. I also repeated that learning. And my fear was this, and I think the sadness for me as I walk through what it is I wanted to talk about today was realizing that I also got stung with the fear that if I began to ask people for anything, they might discover that I was gay.
Oh, wow. So you were hiding a lot of secrets.
I was hiding a lot of secrets. And of course, the fear was if I asked for help, and it clearly wouldn't have been about the issue until it was about the issue that I was gay, that it might move somebody closer to saying, Thomas, are you gay? So I didn't risk that chance. I didn't risk that chance. Yeah. So it was really liberating for me. Yeah, a lot of fear. So that was the biggest motivation. Don't ask for help because from the family, we're not asking help because there's a secret we've got to keep. And for me, not asking for help because I also had a secret. I didn't want people to find out that I was gay.
So my sort of like my core talk was, if I ask for help, and I really need something, I'm not lovable if I do that. So I have that sort of that story that there's something wrong with me. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy somehow of that. So honestly, like my biggest teachers have been, well, and they've had to beat it out of me, have been my sons in going, Mom, you know, what did you have 4 sons for? If not to help. But I do forget it.
Yeah, what a beautiful resource for you, and I'm sure it all fits perfectly for this lifetime and the lessons that you need to learn. For me, the core was weakness. If we asked for help, we would be seen, right? Because there was some prominence to the Dolans in Calgary. We'd be seen as weak. So that's what was hard for the Dolans around weak. So it was weak. It was that secret. And then when it dropped down to me, it was, wow, I can't show people the authentic Thomas. So it was this notion of fear was the motivator for me. Don't ask for help because I'm afraid if I do, someone's going to get a sense that I'm gay.
Oh, wow. That's a big story that you made up about it all. Isn't that interesting? So we all tell ourselves these stories, as we've talked about, in our head about what things mean for us because of our experiences. This is, to me, it seems like a very widespread North American thing. Some of it's like British, you know, they're kind of like, you know, suck it up and carry on kind of thing. No, don't ask for help. You know, we're programmed that way, I think, also, you know, in society. So, and I see a lot of people, I think there's a lot of reasons, you know, we shared our reasons, and I think there's a lot of reasons and layers to this not wanting to ask for help. And again, like what we said about being busy, is there's sort of a badge of honor by not asking for help. That, badge of honor thing is, no, I can do it all. I can do it all. And there is something about that. I think also, I think just as an upbringing as a female, and that's the role that I identify as, is we have to do it all. We've been told that in feminism, we can have it all, we can do it all, and we have to do it well, and we can work, and we can look care of the family and the house and our partners, and we can be everything to everybody. And it's like, hang on, I'm not sure I can do all that. It's actually too much. And then to have to ask for help in that, or recognize that there's burnout, that's actually not how we function as humans. I think that can have a big legacy, and a negative legacy for us in terms of how we live, because it's like causes anxiety.
Yes.
It's a question on your persona and your self-esteem. If, oh my God, all these people out here, they can do it all. Why can't I? Well, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm going to power through. And I know that that's true from a lot of women that I talk to. That asking for help thing appears to be, again, selfish in some way, or it's saying that you're not capable in some way. It causes that anxiety. So it's almost like we're not allowed to ask for help, because that would impact us so much.
Yeah, and not that I didn't have an inkling of that. And on the other side, Mheyah, under the banner of masculine and masculinity, this notion for men, and the challenge is this, and I'll own it, this idea, and it goes back to kind of hunter-gatherer, right? This whole notion of, it's up to me. I'm the one that needs to get it done. It's kind of inherently or culturally imbued in me that I'm the one that's going to win. I'm the one that's going to step forward. And of course, the binary is this: win, lose. Lose ties into, gosh, I let him know I need help. There's possibly weakness tied into that. But if I don't, I'm going to win. At all costs, I think masculinity, and perhaps, and gosh, I'm going to intend that it is an older version of that experience, although I know it lives in a traditional way for a lot of men. But ultimately, I think the challenge is we've not been schooled into saying, you can still be the man that you want to be. I'll still value you as that, even though from time to time I know that you need help. So isn't that interesting, Mheyah, that both feminine and masculine struggle with the same stereotype for very different reasons?
For very different reasons. A different, a different impact, or what it is that propels that is different from the inside for men and women, is male or female energy, or however you want to look at that. And so I'm really glad. What's so great about having you on here is I can, and talking, because every time I get, there's my perspective as a female, and it's so important to appreciate, the male perspective on what that means. And so thank you. It has so much value for me, and I hope, everybody out there to hear both those sides, and how we come at the same issue from a different way, which is really, really interesting. I think,
and in its full embodiment of masculinity, I'm certainly not suggesting that I'm speaking for the full experience of masculine. I can only speak to mine. And then, of course, you add into my experience in this lifetime the nuance of gay as well. So I have a completely different experience, and I'm certainly open to having somebody that's living a different experience than me, and having the relationship with masculinity as being okay with the experience that they're having, being absolutely okay. So no, not the big booming voice for masculinity, not at all. I mean, that kicks up all kinds of stuff for me, but there's a whole other issue. But most importantly, it's this notion that, wow, you're right, Mheyah, this is complicated. Why is it difficult for us to ask for help?
Well, I know there's another reason for me, and I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but there's this, I know that living in a very emotionally and physically chaotic environment in my family culture, growing up, that the one thing I really could rely on was myself.
Mm.
And that I needed to control that to manage my anxiety. So I developed an anxious, controlling way of doing things to make myself feel safe, to make myself feel secure. There's something about if I were to let go of that, I would be risking myself to more chaos, the letting go of that control, that I would be letting go my control of my safety and my security. So
And Mheyah, at
learning,
that
yeah.
time, excuse me for interrupting. At that time, was it control small c or was it control big C?
Oh, can you describe the differences to me?
I can. For me, when I move into control big C, a lot of fear, a lot
Yeah.
of anxiety, this notion that I've got to control the circumstance almost to the point where it's life-threatening. Control small c is realizing that, in this particular case, that part of me that can express control, instead of it having the circumstance, where suddenly that aspect of Thomas, the controller, shows up and I have no idea where he came from, the small c is this, taking a breath, noticing that there's a part of me, typically ego, that wants to control the circumstance. I can say to that part of me, through taking a breath, realizing that it wants to run the show, and instead land on this notion of simply being aware of this desire to control, and then being okay to land on a middle ground where it doesn't feel like it's a big C or capital or all caps control, where it's almost life-threatening. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. But it started out as
Of course.
big control.
Yes, exactly.
But when I was really young,
yes,
and it would feel life-threatening if things were going off, and I couldn't ask for help, and so yes, that raised my anxiety level, all of that. It's become a small c now, but that's taken a lot of years to learn how to do and to recognize. Wait a minute, my not asking for help is. It's a negative thing, not a positive thing. So it's taken a lot of years to figure out that I can rely on other people. Who are the people that I can rely on? I mean, I've had to go through that test. In life, not everybody is reliable. So I've gone out and I've found people that I know I can rely on, and then I'm able to ask help from them. I'm still not able necessarily to rely on everybody because not everybody's reliable, but I get what you mean. So that's been the process. So thank you for clarifying that. That's really good.
You're welcome.
So
You're welcome.
Definitely big C, not asking for help, anxiety, back when I was 20.
That makes sense.
Better now that I'm older and wiser. Maybe.
And for me, it's important to acknowledge that from time to time, it's completely okay coming at something on your own, completely okay not to ask for help, because it might be a lesson that's important for you to learn in this lifetime. It might be a lesson connected to something that is your responsibility. It might be a lesson connected to work that has you in a place where you realize, wow, for growth or for my commitment, this is something that I need to take on my own. I bumped into, along with this notion of weakness within the family and that secret that I alluded to, kind of some other reasons why it is that I may have chosen or why others may choose, and notice my language, choose not to ask for help. And it would be this, a lack of assertiveness. I certainly found that growing up, right? I wasn't nice, so I couldn't ask. Certainly low self-esteem. This notion of avoiding responsibility tied into, right, asking for help, because if I do, I then have to take it on. Pride. There was, and we were taught in the Dolan family, and I'm going to suggest it was a false sense of pride because it wasn't legitimate. It wasn't a pride that you celebrate. It was this notion of, we can do it on our own. We've always done it on our own. This notion of when the family did or when I did, there was a negative experience around asking for help, so I'm not ever going to do that again. And then ultimately, probably the bigger one was this idea that if I ask you, Mheyah, for help, one of the stories is you're going to judge me, you're going to reject me, you're not going to like me, you're not going to love me, so I'm not going to ask for help.
That badge of honor thing.
Yeah, thank you. That badge of honor, and of course, it meant that with not being able to conjure up whatever it is that I need to ask for help, I found myself, right, having an experience of being alone most of the time.
Yeah, I get that.
Yes.
What just came up for me, which is really interesting, is it's always really interesting when things come up. It's like, oh, where'd that come from? is, for me, and not
Mm.
everybody, hello. Somebody's saying hello. I'm listening and enjoying, and that's really sweet. Thank you. It's always nice.
Oh,
It's always nice to get some feedback.
Mia,
Hello.
that would be Sean, and Sean is the proprietor of a beautiful company called Miku, and Miku is now in Metrotown, and Adam and I, my husband, I mean, I use their products, but Sean is this lovely, insightful man. So it's lovely to hear that Sean is listening and enjoying this. So big hello, hi
Aw.
Sean.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. That's so nice. I thought, wow, it was just nice to see a hello. um, so thank you for that, Sean. And it's nice to meet you. Is okay. Totally honestly, if I go, wow, I really need to ask for some help, I actually have to think about it for a while. It
Mm,
was like when I posted that picture of the barbecue. I thought, whoa, this is like math to me. Um, I'm not a mathematics person. I see the world in emotions and feelings and color. I'm a designer as well, so it's like it looks like math. Anyway, I thought, do I ask for help? I didn't. I went step by step by step. But I really do. If I come upon a situation like that, I feel I have to ask for myself. I have to think about it. I have to. It takes a lot of courage, is what I'm really trying to say. It takes a lot of courage for me to ask for help. I don't know if other people have that, but it takes a lot of courage because I'm worried about being judged. I'm worried about being criticized. I'm worried that somehow someone's going to see me less than, that I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm weaker. I'm old. All the things that go in my head. So it takes a lot of courage for me to go, I actually really need some help. And I mean, I can feel the emotion for me in that because I have to really breathe. I have to go,
mm,
you can do this. It's okay if somebody says no, if they judge you for that. But especially in my intimate relationships and my friendships, it takes a lot of courage. It really does. It's like I really have to steel myself up for asking for help. Like, I just think that's quite extreme.
well, and I mean, I hear the judgment on your part that it's extreme, but ultimately we're in good company. There is a tendency not to ask for help, and I think it is because we're squeamish, right? Some of the possibilities are that we're,
I love that word.
yeah, squeamish. We're reluctant to ask because we assume that someone's going to say no, right? It's uncomfortable. We feel
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, right? When we ask somebody to help us, we worry that
Mm-hmm.
they're going to make up some kind of story about us when we ask
Mm-hmm.
for help. We worry whether or not they're going to think less of us. We worry about, and I sure have, I've worried about being, gosh, if I ask my family or friends for help, am I being a burden? It's that notion, and you touched on it
Yeah,
earlier, Mia. It's
the
this idea
burden.
of I'm making up a story that isn't true. Really, what I'm doing is I'm making up a prediction for my ask, if I can even ask it, to actually not be given an affirmative to, because I've already predicted that somebody's going to say no, and that they're going to think that they're going to think something of me. So we're not alone in our tendency not to ask for help, and those are some of the reasons why we don't do it. We're squeamish, and it's about being vulnerable, and it's about this
Yeah.
notion of thinking that we've got it figured out ahead of time. How it is that somebody's going to say no, and the reasons behind it, and in kind of unpacking this whole idea of how can I make my life better, because I think it's better when I ask for help. What I've done a couple of times from this great place of vulnerability, so I needed to be courageous. I've gone to somebody that I wanted to ask something of, and I've said to them,
Mm-hmm.
I've got this story. There's something that I want to ask you about, but the story I've made up. So I've made up your mind that you're going to say no to me before I even ask you what it is that I need from you. And they kind of look at me puzzled. So I say to them, can I give you an idea what it's about? So I eventually am able to deliver what it is that I'm about, or I'm asking about. And Mia, they look at me with this puzzlement, because in this particular case, somebody that loved me very much. And she said, Thomas, first of all, you're wrong. That story that you made up is completely wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
I would go to the end of the earth to help you with anything. In this particular case, what you're requesting is such an easy ask. Absolutely, I will help you.
I know.
So I caught myself. I'm wanting to ask somebody something that I've never asked them, and then I go ahead and make up their mind, and their answer is no,
Yeah,
without ever whispering that it is that I needed help. How wacky
I
is
know.
that?
That's such a great story, though, because it's about the prediction in our head. And it's like there's a lady who's just said, that her daughter feels uncomfortable asking. She's afraid they won't help. So I think part of that too is I love how you've presented it to somebody, in a more intimate, vulnerable way, and I think I did the same thing last week. And I'm thinking what I'm saying here to this young lady is not to make up that story about what it means if somebody says no. They might be too busy themselves. They might not be able to take it on. Don't take it personally. Don't think it means anything about you. And this is about so many things in the world, is don't think it means anything about you. So I've learned, so last week I went and had my vaccine, and oh man, did my arm hurt. Anyway, I went and had my vaccine. I had my jab, but I was really a baby and didn't want to go by myself. And so I said I really, really didn't want to go by myself. Don't ask me why, but I didn't. I just felt like I wanted to go with somebody. I just wanted a human with me. So I said to my son, please don't judge me. I need to ask you a question. And he did the same thing, your friend. I said, so what I'm going to ask you, I just need some compassion. This is what I need, compassion, that I'm being a big baby and I don't want to go by myself. He laughed and said, well, of course I'll go with you. That's easy. I can do that. So he went with me. But again, it was my self-talk. So
Of course.
it's like what I really want to share with this young lady is it's about your self-talk. I was making up this story that he was going to judge me, that I was weak, or that, I was being, a big old baby, and that, I wasn't independent, and what was wrong with me. He didn't think that. That was just like this silly story I had up in my head about what it meant. Now, having said that, Thomas, it's true. Some people might not be able to do, he could have said, oh, I can't, no. I'm looking after my daughter, I've got a meeting that night, or whatever. But that understanding what the no means and not taking it personally, it wouldn't have been personal. It wouldn't have been because I was being a big baby, So, I think this is like such a valuable topic because
I agree.
it's just mixed with so much stuff.
And the biggest one, and you've noted, is this discomfort, right? Requesting assistance, asking for help is also uncomfortable because we've got this notion that we're supposed to be in control. I mean, as if we ever are, right? But when we ask for help, we make up the stories that, they're going to think, well, first of all, before I think they're going to think that my life is out of control, I go to this place of thinking, am I out of control because I've got to ask for help? When I really need, I feel it, right? Am I really out of control? Does that determine the thought that I'm not going to ask for help? Because I've even made up a story about myself that I might not have control of my life. So you're right, Mheyah. It is deep. It is layered. And of course, what I'm appreciating that you did with your son was to be able to, it's kind of like and I'll talk about this a little bit later. It's this notion of, and you gifted yourself with, so noted your discomfort, but you gifted yourself with a lovely kind of beginning chat with your son. You shared with him what was going on for you based in I. And when you finally were able to level the question, I think what you gifted yourself with was this little bit of a break to yourself, because the story might have been being a baby is not a good thing. And I think at times being a baby is a really good thing.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, you set yourself up to actually have your son have a better understanding of who you are. You were really vulnerable and shared an intimate part of your experience with your son and gave him an opportunity perhaps see mom in a completely different light. It's one of the benefits. It's one of the benefits of being able to ask for help, huh?
Well, don't you think that that's really kind of authentic? So I think that not asking for help sometimes when we need it, and we do need it, is that we're not really being authentic in our fears or our vulnerabilities and all of that. And so, I mean, I think as human beings, if somebody we care about says, I need help with this, I think it would be our natural human response. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Does it go?
You are
Of
not wrong,
course.
Mheyah, right? And you
I
asked
want to
me,
help. I want to help you.
was it you being authentic? The answer is yes, that was you being authentic. First of all, what a great bit of modeling to your son, but what a great gift to yourself. And notice, Mheyah, you got the result that you wanted.
I did. And I think the other important thing in this precise moment, as an example, was that I asked him before I asked him what it was I needed by the question. And I think sometimes we forget to say what I really need is for you to just hear me out. What I really need is your understanding. Um, it's a hope, that you're putting out there, but it's true. And in a way, it kind of frames the request, I think. What I
It
really need is
does.
your support. What I really need is your love. What I really need is your caring, your understanding, whatever it is that the question has a need behind it. I need your time. Have you
Yes.
got the time?
Yes.
And then not taking it personally. So this is like a key part, because you might say, I really need this understanding. And they might go, I hear your question and I don't understand. Or,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't have the time or whatever. But again, it goes back to that Toltec teaching. Do not take anything personally, right? So, because
Very
I think,
true.
yeah, because I think that
Yeah.
that's really easy to do when you ask for help.
And what I'm appreciating about what you're saying, Mheyah, it's this idea that prior to the ask, you got very clear about what you wanted. You were able to ask for what it is that you needed. And the setup for that to be successful was really divine. Do you think there was any discomfort for your son once he heard the fuller story, particularly with your desire to be kind of uber authentic with him around what came up for you around baby? Do you think there was any, I mean, you got the yes, but did you sense, I mean, particularly with your professional credential, did you think there was anything there that was kind of icky for your son about that, about his yes? No.
No, no, not
And
at
it would
all.
be, and you
Now,
chose,
I could be wrong. There
no,
could be
I
stuff
understand, of
underneath,
course. Yeah.
but I'm very sensitive to um, people's feelings. I mean, that is very, I think, typical of people who come from, traumatized backgrounds, are very uber sensitive to other energies and people's feelings and the hidden agendas behind stuff. And I know I'm like that. And I did clarify it with him, though. I did say, so are you sure this isn't going to take away any time? I just want to be mindful of your time from work. And he says, no, as long as I know ahead of time. He says, I can book it into my schedule and my time. And he gave me that time. And and his wife supported that, which was really nice of her.
So
Because,
beautiful.
yeah, so it was beautiful. And of course, it does take away time from his family to do that, and however, I mean, we all have
But
to
well, then
choose.
clearly you
It's a
allowed him an
choice.
opportunity, yeah, to make a choice as to where it is that he
Yes.
got to put his
Mm-hmm.
energy, his love. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing I bumped into when I began to think about times where it was difficult for me to ask for help, I would use, and Brene Brown calls this comparative suffering. It's this notion that there's our tendency to compare ourselves to others and downplay, right, our problems or our needs is really, really bad. In fact, Brene calls comparative suffering, she says it's really deadly, right? It's important for me to ask, but I know that you might be in a tough place. Your place might be tougher than me, therefore I'm not going to ask you.
Right. Okay. I understand. Comparative suffering, which almost
Comparative
kind of,
suffering,
yeah, yeah, and yeah, I get that.
right?
Comparative.
Because
That's a good line.
yeah, the place that I'm in, I'm not going to make a request because I've got a sense that the place that you're in is worse than me. Therefore, I'm actually not going to
Oh,
ask you because again, I've made up a story
story.
that
Oh, you're
that
too
your
busy.
suffering,
Your life is busier,
yeah,
right?
or your
You're,
suffering
yeah,
is worse than mine.
Mary.
Comparative suffering, right? It's
Oh, right.
really really nasty. Yeah,
And
yeah,
again, it's another one of those stories that we tell ourselves about other people. The comparative suffering. I love that. That's a really good line. It
yeah.
also brings me to something which I'm a little bit sensitive about is uh, the 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 martyr
Mm.
and the victim um, in not asking for help and trying to take it and then being a martyr about it. Well, I'm I do everything myself, and I'm, and then it's like, and then they complain about it. And I said, well, uh, I'm totally willing to go and pick that up for you, or I can help you with that. I've got extra time, and stuff like that. But there are people who literally won't ask, and then they'll be a martyr about all the things that they're doing. Now,
And they'll
that's an
probably,
interesting dynamic.
yeah, and they'll let you know either through action or a conversation that they're, and literally, and sometimes it's a challenge for folks to hear this, but choosing victim and choosing martyr
Mm-hmm.
can be really challenging energies because, of course, they're a little bit slower, they're a little bit darker. Not that at times it's not a good thing to choose that, but ultimately we're back to that. So, is victim or martyr having you, or are you having it?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and maybe it's being unaware of it, but it's hanging on to that again is giving those people something. But the resentment in terms of energy and payback in a relationship is terrible. So
Payback in relationship, Mheyah.
in the
Oof.
payback in relationship, and it's kind of subversive and it's hidden, but it all comes back to this not asking for help. I've got to control it all. I've got to keep it on because that gives me something, whatever the reason is. But then they see somebody not being as busy. They aren't able to ask for help. And they then come to the relationship with the energy of victimhood and martyrdom. And that is very, very negative energy, I think, for relationships.
I'm right there with you because it's oftentimes it's hidden, it's kind of kicked under the rug, and then um,
Oh, you froze.
excuse me, that was a call coming in out of what am I attempting to say? It seems like a little thing, but it's tucked under the rug. Then all of a sudden something happens and this big kaboom happens in the relationship, but it's all based on, you didn't go to the store. I asked you to go to the store and for whatever reason you couldn't go. And I'm really pissed about that right now, but I never told you at the time, or there were three other
Exactly.
circumstances where that happened. So you're right. It's toxic and really damaging in a relationship.
It is really toxic. And I think there's a lot of people, there's this thing, well, look at all the things I do for you. And then there's the expectation of a payback in some way, or whether it's in business, you don't understand all the runaround that I've done or all the stuff that I've done. And, for you, and you don't, I haven't told you about it. And, that's just an example. And then in a relationship, in intimate relationship, it's like, well, you didn't, and then it's almost like there's the comparison, like, comparing, well, I do this and you don't do that, and there's all of that going on. So there's that again. What is that giving people?
And what a great question to put out there. One of the other things that I kind of moved myself into was this notion of, so I think I've shared all the ways it's been a challenge for me, and I'm going to assert for me that today asking for help is a lot easier than it was. There are still moments when I bump into a big roadblock, right? And it's challenging. But I thought, so how do I make it easy for myself? And the first thing that I bumped into was this notion of, Thomas, change the story, right? If you've got a prediction that they're going to say no, change the story and just think, wow, they might say yes. They might not reject you. They might think it's okay that you're coming to them asking for help. So I need to tell myself a different story instead of saying, oh, this is going to be awful. It's going to look like I'm an idiot, or other people need more help than I do, that comparative suffering. I can say, this is an opportunity for me to connect with somebody at a level that I haven't connected with before, by being able to just initially out of the gate think, wow, what if they did say yes to me? What would that be like? So intend that the request for help is actually going to be granted, as opposed to the story of, I think she's going to say no to me. No, yeah, she's going to say no. I'm not going to ask.
So let's look at it from the other side.
Good, please do.
What's it like from the person who sees this person over here burning themselves out, working way too hard, taking on way too much, won't ask for help, and then they're being pissy at you, me, whoever, because they're resenting it. They're being a martyr. They're being a victim. How does that other person, if they're not willing to give up that control or ask for help, or finding out what's going on there could be really complicated.
Boy, that's really great. And it's this notion of, you would have known, Mheyah, I needed help because you should have been able to read my mind. So I don't ask you because I think you've got it figured out that I need help.
I've seen people do that. I've had couples that are so locked into that particular thing. I mean, I'm sure you've seen couples doing the same thing. It's like, you should have known I needed help, you know, and then it's like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not taking responsibility for asking. And it's putting the other person trying to be a mind reader, and they can't be a mind reader. There is no way we can be mind readers. It's just not going to happen. And that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make in relationship.
Indeed. And I've used that idea that, oh, my husband must know, right, that I need help here. And of course, when I eventually do my work and come back and say, you know, I've got this whole story, and just said to him, did you have any idea? He would say, I had no idea that you needed help. He said, the only way I know that you need help is if you ask me. And I think, oh, okay, there I was again.
I know.
Down. Yeah.
I'm sorry, like, I'm not laughing at you. It's just that it's so.
You're laughing with me because I'm laughing too.
I'm laughing with you because, like, I remember being, you know, young with all these children, and my husband sitting on the couch watching TV, me not asking for help and stomping around and being really pissed off that I'm cooking, I'm doing the dishes, I'm putting on 5 loads of laundry, I've got all the ones to fold over here, and I'm running around like a stupid rat in a cage. And so, yeah, we went for counseling because I was building up all this resentment about him being, you know, he's such a lazy sod. He's not helping and he should know. But you know, to be fair, I was really young and I didn't know what I didn't know. And so he looked at me like, in counseling, like, well, I didn't know. Like, I'm so sorry, you know. So what we did was we made a plan. We made a list of all the stuff that needed doing. And then we voted for who was going to, I'm going to take that, you can take that, you know, all that kind of stuff. And thank you very much for those kind words. Just
that is somebody who's connected with me on Instagram from Germany. She is an amazing woman, woman. So a big hello. I
love it.
A big hello to Germany. Yes, indeed. She
Hi,
is just a gorgeous, gorgeous soul. Indeed. So anyway, I like that we kind of stopped for a second to recognize these amazing people that are listening to us.
Yeah, yes. That's wonderful. It's nice to have you here all the way from Germany.
All the way from Germany.
Yeah, I have some friends that come on all the way from the UK as well, which is nice. Yeah. So anyway, so there's this thing. Oh, sorry, Thomas. I just was going to finish what I was saying.
No, you go ahead and finish.
Where it's really true. If you're going to recognize at some point that you're feeling resentful or you're feeling pissed off or you're overwhelmed or you're feeling, you know, all those feelings of resentment and all that can go on. It's like, but did I ask for help? We're responsible for that. So here was my poor husband, and honestly, he didn't know. And then when I learned to ask for help with him, my God, it just went so much better. I started to say, okay, so these are the things that I'm believing we need to have done. Like, I would start like family meetings. These are the things that need to be done. This is where kids need to be, and these are the chores that need to be done. And then we all learned to pitch in. And so I didn't have to do it all because I'd already decided after going through this, you know, 60s and 70s that I really couldn't do it all, you know. And it did take a few lessons in burnout, though, to get that lesson, to really stick it home. So yeah.
And bravo for you for getting that. That's amazing, because I'm thinking some part of you probably didn't want to do it all either, right?
No, I really didn't want to do it all. I decided I really didn't want to do it all. In fact, I went on strike once because of that.
I love it.
I went on strike. Great. Yeah, big yellow sign in the kitchen. Big yellow sign said, on strike due to disrespectful working conditions. And it was, I had to then remind everybody, this is when they were older, wait a minute, I can't do all this. You guys aren't helping, and I'm asking for help. And but I had to do it in a big way, because I think there's also that thing where people know you need help, but if they see you doing it all, then it means they don't have to. Right?
I agree. And also, I think a caveat to asking for help is realizing that, particularly today, right, in the circumstance we're in with COVID-19, is that I'm not the only one that needs help. I mean, especially these days, plenty of people are receiving support.
Yes.
We're watching a lot of people wonderfully pulling together and really pitching in to try and help out whenever they can, whenever when they're moved by it. Because ultimately, I think to myself, we is greater than I, right? The spirit of we're all in this together, right, could mitigate the hesitance that a lot of people have to ask for help and then actually receive the help. So this notion of just remembering, kind of keep it in your heart or in your mind that you're not the only one that needs that today, and to be really clear, the idea of embracing the idea that I had people tell me this, Mheyah, which was really interesting with the story of, no, I'm not going to ask for help. When I finally did, and they said yes, they would eventually come back to me and say, do you have any idea how that made me feel? How that made me realize that I could help you move from a place of feeling that you were really stuck. Opening myself up to asking them for help was a really nice thing to do for them.
There's a gift in it.
It's a gift in it.
I was going to get to, there's a gift.
Yes.
I think it's true. Givers get. It's a great
Givers
line.
Get. Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. So that in a way, we're giving a gift to somebody who can then give to us, and there is something that you get out of that. Like, I think that there is a communing. There is something really important about somebody asking me for help. Oh my God, my heart feels so full. It's like,
yes.
you're asking me for help. I would love to help you. That's what I'm here for. I don't know whether it's my counselor thing or whether it's my heart or it's just being a human. But I love it when people ask me for help. Please ask me for help. I always put that on everything I post. If you need help, if you need support, I'm here for that because I get something out of that. It means that we're connected.
Yes.
We're connecting, and that's what's important to me. We're connecting in our common humanity, that we all need support, we all need love, and we all need help. So for me, it's a loving act to help other people.
Well, and on a physiological level as well, let me bring in, because I did last time as well, the notion of your brain science suggests that
yes, the science.
Our brains release endorphins when we're able to help others. So by me asking for help and receiving the help, that person said to me, wow, I felt really good. And of course, that's the high, right? It's called, it's called helper's high.
Oh,
scientifically,
is it?
It's called helper's high. Yeah. That by helping others, you get this release of endorphins. So it's an opportunity to do that. That feels really great. It's also an opportunity to get closer to somebody. An appeal for assistance can actually bring us closer. It's a chance to connect in a new way. The other thing that's really important that I've done some great work on, because the opposite was true, I didn't do great work on what it is exactly that I needed. So I think it's important to make asking easier for us, be really clear and be really specific about what you require. So take the time to understand your requirements so that when it comes time to deliver that ask, you're really clear about what it is that you need. Because again, given all the help that people are putting out in the world today as it exists, my clarity around what it is that I need really helps somebody land on a yes or a no.
I love it. And I just really want to acknowledge this person who's just come on here, and he says he's from Kurdistan in Iraq, and he says, bless you both. Thank you so much. It's just, my heart just feels amazing that you've come on the call from all over the world like this. This is wonderful because I'm loving what Thomas has just said. I think that it creates a more intimate connection with people when we can give the gift of asking and the gift of giving. And I love that. The helper's high, is that what it's called? The helper's high?
The helper's high. The helper's high.
I love it.
Those that it's endorphins. And the other thing too is I always consider myself, right? I don't have a PhD in asking for help. I don't have a master's in asking for help. I don't have an undergrad in asking for help. So I am always considering myself as somebody who's how did I coin it when I thought about it the other day? I'm in training when it comes to asking for help.
You're a student.
I'm a student
of asking for help.
Because what I'm doing is I'm building a new muscle, right?
Yeah.
The more I use that muscle, the better it is that I get practiced at it.
Yeah.
And I'm also noticing, Mheyah, I'm getting more yeses to my core request for help because I'm taking the time to actually practice it. And hearing so many folks say, wow, it's amazing, Thomas, that you could ask. Because then they'll tell me a story, and the story is, I didn't think you were ever anybody that would be willing to ask for help. Isn't that cool?
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
I
which
love
is
that.
really wonderful. Yes,
I
indeed.
know. Well, I think that there is something about this need for autonomy and independence. And I think it actually grows into a bigger thing. Like, I mean, it's like intimate relationships, it's family relationships, it's community. Where can community start helping? And as you're saying, even through the pandemic, it's like, let's support each other. It's countries. It's, okay, so how can we help everybody? So for me, I think that it's a global issue not to ask for help, that, you know, there's something important and value about all of us considering ourselves a global human, and not just individuals, not just separate. So that it's that feeling of separateness and isolation that I think that we create by not being able to ask for help, by not being able to put ourselves out there in a vulnerable way and ask for what we need, ask for what we want. And it's the same, you know, we say we're using the word help, but asking for what we need,
Yes.
asking for, right, around our values. What is it we need around those things? That is asking for help as well.
And for us, and for us to be clear first, it's my job to get clear on what it is that I need. It's not your job to help me figure it out. It's like, oh, Mheyah, I'm kind of thinking I need a little bit, and you hear me rambling, and then you step in and say, you know, is this where you need help? Oh, that's it. So what I've suddenly done is I've invited you to take responsibility for figuring out what it is that I need. That's really dysfunctional. And that's actually unfair.
I'm so glad it's very unfair, and that's what coaches and counselors are for, because we help people understand what it is that they need rather than having their partner trying to figure that out, because you're putting that responsibility and giving it to them. I call it the ball, and you're handing out the ball over to them. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because you have to process that. And the truth is really simple. And I know that, you know, we're coming up to the 8-minute mark, so I just want to be careful of our time. But it's important for you to work on that process, to understand what you need, understand what you want, what's important to you, and what your values are, so that then you can express it. And what happens, this is the brilliant part, is it's actually usually really simple. We complicate it with word salad, way too much word salad, and we just go on and on and on. However, when you can get down to what it is, it's actually usually really simple. It's simple things like, I need to feel loved, I need respect, I need hope, I need this, I need appreciation, whatever it is you need from another person. I need your time, I need physical support, whatever it is. When we can get down to really being able to express that in a vulnerable way and ask for what we need and want, it makes everything so much easier, and it makes it so much healthier, and it makes us all part of the same tribe instead of this isolating thing we do in North America.
It's so true. When I step into asking for help, I suddenly realize that I step into a community that has chosen a value of authenticity, certainly vulnerability, has to be courage, and intimacy, for me to take the time to figure out. So for Thomas, for me, and I sit quiet and wonder what it is, because it swirls around, it becomes a feeling, and sometimes when I think that feeling is a fact, I realize that's not true. I take the time, and eventually I can land with and be as authentic as you were with your son, to be able to say, here, I've figured out what it is that I need. Can you help me, please, with exactly what it is that I need?
And I think that that's exactly the process that people get to. I think the hard part, of course, is becoming aware and conscious of the fact that that is what you're doing, is you're not asking for help because anxiety, control, because of dysfunction, because of your perceived badge of honor, because all the different reasons. But of course, again, the first place you need to start is being aware of yourself, being a conscious of what's propelling you, what is behind all of that. And I think that's the exploration we all have to do as human beings.
I agree. And also I'd add in that notion of being aware of the story that you've created that has you never asking, right? But making up a story that somebody's going to say no based on the fact that you actually never did ask them. So being conscious of that story, which 99.9% of the time is not true.
Absolutely. And I'm always telling people, my big line is, don't believe everything you think. Don't make, and not only that, not everything is about you. So that idea that not everything is about, it's always about you from an awareness and conscious place, but
Yes.
whatever's going on over here with somebody else, it's rarely about you. So don't make up that story. So I'm going to say, this week, let's not make up any stories.
And if you do choose to say no to you, what you think of me is none of my business.
Exactly. And I so wish that we'd learned more of this stuff when I was younger. I mean, it's great that we're learning it now. I'm still a student of all of this stuff, like Thomas said, as we all are. But wow, if I kind of, learned earlier on how much, easier life would have been. I'm really sorry for the bother. No, you're not bothering with the questions. We've only got 4 minutes left. So I just want to say, I just want to make sure that I have time to wrap everything up. I think it's so exciting to have all of you here. I hope that you've enjoyed the call. And you can always ask questions afterwards because, we always post the video. Ask questions. We'll get back to you. I had some great feedback on the busyness story, which was really fun. And it was really, it made my heart feel, again, very full to have the feedback, to have your questions. We're here to help and support you. Thomas and I are both, coaches, and, I'm a therapist. I hate to use that word because people go, oh, and this young man saying, I don't know, man or lady, I didn't see what your name was. I'm sorry. He says, I'm going to move to to America after my studies and soon. Well, that's great. I hope that goes really well for you. And don't forget to ask for help if you need it.
That's actually really great. I love it. Okay, there's the bow, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. We're going to love you and leave you. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but we'll talk about it and post again because these seem to kind of follow a lot on each other. And we're going to get into some really juicy topics as time goes by. So thank you all again for being here. It just is so awesome on my heart. And I know I do trust that Thomas feels exactly the same way. So, and Thomas, thank you for showing up and being here and helping me because I needed the help with this. This is so nice.
You are so welcome.
All right. Love you all. We'll talk to you next week. Everybody take care. And don't forget, don't tell yourself stories and ask for help when you need it. All right. Bye, everybody.